By changing your mindset and battling these 4 roadblocks to confidence, you're way better equipped than the woman who does nothing to tackle these issues head on and finally live your life on your own terms. Hello, my love. Welcome back to the Aroused Podcast for another episode. And if you're new around here, welcome. I'm Samantha Pop, your host and personal life coach. Today's episode is how to avoid these top 4 confidence mistakes. So let's get into all the tea. Warning, the following presentation is intended for mature audiences. It includes stigma topics like sex, addictions, mental illness, adult dialogue, and strong language. Viewer discretion is advised. All right, are you ready? Today I'm talking all about these 4 roadblocks to confidence. So what's really getting in the way of your confidence and how to tackle these head on so you can start building and living a life on your own terms. Number 1 is your inner critic. So this is the voice inside your head telling you what society and people in your environment that have said for years, and now it's in your head and you think that it's your own thought. For example, I would have thoughts from my inner critic in my head tell me, oh, you're not beautiful unless you're a size 2, 0, 4, whatever was in style at that time. Or if you don't look like this, you're ugly and fat and worthless. I also thought that I wasn't pretty because no boys were interested in me in elementary school or junior high. So I would think, oh, only boys or the cute boys only go out with the girls that are pretty or interesting. And I didn't think that I was either of them, hence why I didn't have any boys interested in me or have a boyfriend. Also, when I was questioning my sexuality in junior high, I thought to myself, oh, well, I go to a Christian junior high and it's a sin to be even bisexual or gay, so I can't talk to anyone. I will be completely condemned by the Christian faith and people, and I could even potentially be institutionalized. So I'm just going to keep this quiet and I'm just going to ignore these feelings because I don't want to have those things happen to me. And these occur because whether you read it in a magazine like I did growing up, or hear it from people around you, or if you were religious like I was for a period of time and hearing from the church or people that were in the Christian faith that certain things, you would automatically believe that and accept that as your truth, which then would come into your head as your inner critic. And then you would take these things, like I said, accept it as your truth, and then they would become your own thoughts. So then you would think, oh, well, I can't be bisexual because I'll be completely condemned and possibly disowned by my entire family. So I'm not going to tell anyone about it. I'm just going to keep this hidden down, and it's wrong to be bisexual because this is what Christians tell me and whatever, right? Even though that's not true. That was 100% some of the thoughts that were going on in my head as I was growing up and my brain still developing as a preteen and teenager. Recognizing that you have an inner critic, that it is saying certain things to you, and recognizing what those phrases are because they are going to differ from person to person, just like you may not be bisexual or may have been questioning your sexuality at a certain point in your life. So that part may not resonate with you, but other parts possibly that you thought that you weren't good enough because maybe you weren't 120 pounds or maybe 100 pounds because at the time that's what society told us was beautiful. And if you weren't that, you were ugly and worthless and gross. But I'm going to tell you a real secret is none of that is true, and you get to decide what your truth is. If you haven't listened to my episode with Kit Volcano, where him and I discuss taking society's quote unquote truths and rewriting them so that they are true for you. Just like he talked about before he transitioned, that when he was a lesbian and thought that, oh, because everyone tells me that no lesbian hairdressers are going to make any money, I'm not going to make any money. But when you rephrase that and you reframe it and rewrite that truth, you can be like, hey, I'm a lesbian, but I'm going to make tons of fucking money as a hairdresser because I'm not going to let that be my truth. So if you want all the details on that, go back to that episode with Kit Volcano, and it is so powerful. Number 2 is comparaitis or comparison beast. So there's 2 different names, and I interchangeably use both of these, but it's when you constantly compare yourself to another person or another woman. Especially as a woman, you're taught to compare yourself to other women. Oh, that woman is engaged, she's pregnant, she's getting married, she got a promotion. Oh my God, like so envious of her, so jealous when, that's great. She's on her own journey and you're on your own journey as well. So even though you might not be an executive executive and you're in your own journey, that's okay, because we're not meant to all have the same journey as a woman. Some women want to be in the corporate ladder. Others want to start their own business. Others want to be a stay-at-home mom. And none of them are wrong. It's just you get to decide what your life gets to look like. And comparing yourself to another woman does nothing good for you. It only does terrible things when you compare yourself to another woman. And you should really only compare yourself to your version of yourself from yesterday, because that is the only comparison to a woman that is ever acceptable for you to become better. Number 3 is imposter syndrome. So this is your self-doubt and constantly telling yourself that you can't do it, you're not good enough, you don't have it in you, you always quit things, so you're not going to finish this. The list goes on and on and on, but it's that imposter syndrome and that self-doubt in yourself, even though you might have the ability, and I'm sure that you do have an amazing ability about you, because like I said before, every woman is unique and beautiful in their own way. So your strength is definitely not my strength. So what your strength is, you can definitely do the thing. If you have been doing pottery for years, you can totally create pottery and sell it. You can totally do that. Believe in yourself. And even though there's going to be self-doubt that comes in through the process, acknowledging it is the first step as well to battling it and overcoming it. Number 4 is perfectionism. This is the leading cause of doing nothing / not taking action or never finishing something because it's not quite perfect yet. And let me tell you, it's never going to be perfect. And if I continued to live in my perfectionism, I never would have launched any of my ebooks, really done anything contributing to my coaching business, because I would have constantly told myself, oh, this graphic isn't good enough. Like, it's not quite perfect yet. And I remember being in my virtual assistant group program back in 2018 with Katie Kidd, who was running it at the time. I remember her telling us when we were creating our new resumes, she said, I know it doesn't look perfect and it may not be exactly what you want, but just finish it and start applying for jobs. Take this, download it, and start applying for jobs, because if you continue to stay in that energy of it's not quite perfect enough, then you're never going to take action. And that has still stuck with me till now. And it's been 3 years since I've taken that group program, and I still remember that. That was probably one of the biggest takeaways from that course that I still teach my clients. I still remind myself of that every single day when I'm making my own graphics, when I'm working on some sort of project, whether it's a training, a video, an ebook, anything. I have to remind myself it may not be exactly 100% perfect, but it's good enough. And that is the kind of energy that you need to bring to the table when you're working on something. Because if you are constantly in the thought and energy of it's not quite perfect yet, it's not perfect yet, you're never going to finish it. You're never going to get rid of it in the fact that you're not going to finish it and potentially send it off somewhere and like get it out of just your computer, in your files, in your Canva, in your Adobe, whatever you're doing. Or if it's in your Microsoft Word and you're writing a short story, it's never going to get on Tumblr or your blog if you keep it in your Microsoft Word or your Google Doc. It's always going to stay there until you're like, you know what? I'm good with it. It's not quite perfect. I can always change it later and update it, because that's the beautiful thing about the technology that we have in this world is you can constantly update it, which I have done with programs of mine. I've done that with my ebooks a couple times and multiple things. I love updating things, but I remind myself it's not going to be 100% perfect, but I love the way that it is right now and I can always update it later. So by changing your mindset and battling these 4 roadblocks to confidence, you're way better equipped than the woman who does nothing to tackle these issues head on. And you're finally going to be able to start creating and living your life on your own terms, which is so beautiful. Because when you look at these past 4 roadblocks that we talked about, perfectionism, imposter syndrome, comparitis / comparison beast, and the inner critic, these are 4 internal roadblocks that you are going to deal with for a very long time. But when you start tackling them and beating them in combat, now you're going to be well more equipped to deal with them in the future. And it's going to be shorter, less intense battles in the future because you have all these mindset hacks that I've been giving you to battle them and tell all these 4 roadblocks to pretty much fuck off and to leave you alone, because you're a badass bitch and you're going to be able to do whatever you want on your own terms and live a life that is truly beautiful for you. Acknowledgement and awareness is the most important and first step to actually start tackling these so they don't bother you that much anymore. I'm not gonna lie, I still deal with all 4 of these roadblocks every single day. Not saying that every single one of them tries to come at me every single day, but I deal with at least one of them every single day. And the more that you work on it, the easier that it's going to become for you to tackle these head on and to beat them in combat, beat them in battle. And then after that awareness part that you know that they're there, you're aware of it, and you're bringing your attention to it, it's finally doing the work to actually tackle them. So I've given you a couple tips already, and I'm going to give you one bonus tip as well here. When you are dealing with these 4 roadblocks and you feel like you're hitting your head against a wall, you feel like it's not working or it's not working fast enough and you're getting frustrated, you feel so beat down and you just want to break down and cry. I had a moment like that today where I was working on a Christmas present, and normally I am great at building things and putting things together, especially being that crafty little girl that I am. But I had a moment of vulnerability where I got so frustrated and I started crying because I couldn't put something together and I felt like such a failure. And I let myself cry, bawl my eyes out, and let go of all the emotions that I was feeling. And then I came back to it about an hour later when I was working on something else, and I was able to actually finish it. I wasn't frustrated anymore. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad because I'd let all of that go. And then I was able to finish putting it together, and it seems so much easier. So allow yourself to feel and be upset, be overwhelmed, but make sure that you feel it and then you release that, whether it's through crying or yelling, preferably at like an inanimate object, or, maybe doing axe throwing and something a little bit healthier. But I definitely don't encourage you to yell at another human being or another living creature like your dog or your pets or your kids. That doesn't do anyone any good. But if you release it in a healthier way where maybe it's just you and you're just screaming in a room by yourself, to let that go, that's much healthier than doing that to another person. And there are other coping mechanisms with that, but I am not a licensed psychologist or anything like that. So if you want more information, you can do some more research on different ways to deal with those kinds of emotions and how to let them go. So your homework for today's episode is I encourage you to take a moment today, tonight, within the next day or two, and put this in your calendar. If you may be like me, whether you don't have a very good memory or maybe you have ADHD and your short-term memory is shit because it is such a hassle sometimes to remember, put this in your calendar when you can schedule it in your day when you're not working, and take a moment to recognize which one of these are battling against you the hardest right now. Once you do that, then you can go through the steps, that awareness piece, and then battling them with some of the tips that I've shared in today's episode. So that's your homework, so get to it. If you loved today's episode, make sure to screenshot it and tag me on social media at The Soulful Body Co. and let me know what was your favorite part of today's episode or your favorite golden nugget. I will see you next time for the next episode of the Boost Your Confidence series.